Hello, everybody. We're going to get this workshop started, and hopefully people joining us can just kind of fit in. Because we're going to take a second to do an icebreaker in a minute. But yes, welcome to the first workshop session of CKI Next 2020. First time that we're doing this online, so it's really exciting. But of course, we'd love to be in person, and Ethan and I are in Vegas, and we'll talk about that in a second. So we're really sad because we would love to show you guys everything about Las Vegas, like the Strip. But still, we're going to maintain the same elements of what makes CKIX so great, and that includes, the leadership and the workshops. So hopefully, us presenting the very traditional workshop of President and VP 101 with our rendition and our knowledge can provide guidance and hopefully help you guys in your journey of being a president or a VP, or if you're aspiring to be one. So we hope you guys enjoy the presentation today. So first, we're gonna do some introductions real quick so you guys can know who we are. Alrighty, so hi, I'm Vanessa. I'm also one of the fellowship co-chairs. So if you guys saw Max, that's my co-chair. But yeah, I am in the California, Nevada, Hawaii district, and more so, I am part of the Desert Oasis Division, and my school is the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. My current position is the Desert Oasis Lieutenant Governor. But of course, as much as I love that position, I always think about the other positions that have brought me to where I am today. So that includes being a previous club president, club vice president of administration, and I was also a special events co-chair. For my school, that's pretty much the people that are in charge of executing large-scale fundraisers. So we have 2 annual benefit concerts. So we do have some expertise in a lot of different things. So if you're interested, you can always email me at any time. I'm more than willing to talk about anything. Fun fact, I'm allergic to kiwis. Very sad, but not the bird, the fruit. Yeah, that's who I am.
And I'm Ethan. I'm also part of the California, Nevada, Hawaii district as well. And then in that district, I'm part of the Desert Oasis Division. Same as Vanessa, I also attend UNLV, or University of Nevada, Las Vegas. Currently, I'm the club president, and then previously I've been the club vice president of administration, the club secretary, and also the special events co-chair. And then my fun fact, I actually make pixel art, so if you ever want to check out, I don't know, some of the stuff that I do, I have a Twitter account. But yeah. So moving on, we're gonna actually be covering 5 main takeaways throughout this session. So those 5 main takeaways that we'll go over are the first one being the dynamic duo between the president and the vice president or vice presidents, communication and why it's important and how to go about it, creating the correct working environment for your club and board, club representation, and then we'll top it off with some conflict resolution.
All right, but before we get into all of that, we're gonna go into an activity. So as I said before, we don't have that chat feature on here. So if statistically a few of you can take a picture of this on your phone, then you guys should be fine when you guys go into groups, because it will be random. But yeah, we want you guys to kind of get to know each other. So it's your turn to kind of explain who you are and your background. So here's just a general layout. So feel free to answer more or anything less. So your name, position, district, school, and major, just so we can kind of see the diversity that we have going on here. And then we want you to answer 3 main questions amongst your group. So 1, what's the hardest part of your position as a president or a VP? And then what's a misconception about your position? And moreover, what do you wish people understood about it? So this is just to kind of see how we're doing on our journeys of, being a president or a VP, or if you're aspiring to be one, you're more than welcome to even talk about these subjects. But yeah, so we can get some breakout rooms started.
Let me actually refresh this real quick. Ooh.
Alrighty. Okay, so wow, I was in my group, so shout out to y'all. Sad we didn't get to spend any more time with each other, but we do have a lot to talk about and share today. So we're gonna try to make sure that you guys have enough time to comprehend all of that, retain it, and then ask those questions at the very end. But yeah, there was definitely like a lot of diversity going on, and this is super exciting. This is my first CKIX, well, CKI next, but nonetheless, it's still very inspiring. I had a lot of fun talking to people that are current presidents or VPs or even aspiring to be one. It's always nice to see that people are interested in taking up like future roles, because we always do need a president and a VP. So everyone that's in this position, look for your successor very soon. It's never too early, so I've learned. But yeah, we'll be talking about some stuff in these positions that no one really talks about. So hopefully you guys can appreciate what we have to give from our experience. Okay, so getting into the outline duties, we want to preface this by saying that each club has their own bylaws and stuff. So be sure to reference that when determining your goals and stuff, because, you know, obviously we're all pretty different. But here are just like some general duties that we compiled. So the president will usually lead club meetings. So this is like board meetings or even general meetings. So it's pretty important, and we'll talk about why meetings are very essential to the club. Typically, you'll find your president doing paperwork. So this is both for like international, your district or division, and even your campus. So each campus has like different rules and regulations when it comes to making sure that your club is renewed every single year. So please make sure that you are paying attention to that, because while it is important that you are recognized by international as a club, you also need to be recognized by your campus as a club. So don't take that and like forget about it. And yeah, lastly, you'll find your president being as the club liaison between your respective division or district. And that's a pretty quick overview of the president position.
And then going into vice president duties, these can actually widely differentiate between your club and how your bylaws work. So double check with those again. So there also might be multiple vice presidents. You might have a vice president of service, maybe a vice president of administration, the service one taking care of community service, the administration one taking care of more of like an appointed board, if you do have one, which is a secondary board in your club. Or you might just have a general vice president that kind of deals with everything. Typically, your vice president is a second in command. If you do have multiple ones, there might be one that is like second in command and then I guess like third in command, or they might be just next to each other in those kinds of aspects. Those are in your bylaws too, so double check with those again. And then usually the vice president will be completing duties assigned by the president as well. So you do end up working together and creating that kind of work environment. And then finally, just to kind of reiterate, I know we said it a bunch of times, but double check your bylaws for the more exact details on what your president, vice president, or even any other position kind of does. So now we'll get into communication and why it's important to have different channels and also what you can use for your board and your club. So one of the things that is pretty important is kind of having consistent board meetings. These allow for board members to kind of report their work as well as address any concerns and questions that might pertain to the rest of the club or even to the rest of the board, those kinds of things. It also just allows for a good transparency, and it keeps everybody on board in a good, on the same page. And that way, if any member or other person outside the club asks a question, anybody on board at least could answer it, or at least potentially has the answer for it. General meetings are another thing, also to keep consistent as well. This keeps everybody else on the club on the same page. If you are the president or the vice president, you'll be leading these general meetings. Typically it's president, but just keep that in mind. One-on-ones, if you have an appointed board, or even if you're just the president and you just want to host one-on-ones with the rest of your executive board or the rest of your board in general, these can be pretty effective. It does allow for a more personal setting. Maybe it's something, maybe a board member or another member just has a concern or question that doesn't really pertain to the rest of the club or board, and maybe it's just more of like a direct question towards you. It's a good idea to kind of have these channels open so that way they can come to you with any of these concerns. It's also a pretty direct and efficient conversation and tool. This allows for, obviously, this allows for like definitely more direct stuff. So you are face to face, or if you're over like Zoom or like a call or something like that, it would just be like over the internet, something along those lines. And then personal outreach is also another good way to go about communication. These are pretty informal. It's just sending a message, maybe calling your board members, anything along those lines, and checking up on your members. These kind of just allow for like, I don't know, a quick check if you wanted to say, hey, how's it going with this project? Do you need help? It's pretty fast. You don't have to schedule anything. And then all of these do allow you to kind of facilitate information for the rest of your board, maybe towards your vice president, maybe towards your president, any kinds of things like that. And then if there's any questions, comments, concerns, any of those can be addressed during any of these things as well.
So just to reiterate once again, of course, we can spend all day talking about what's in the bylaws, but we have experience, and that's something that no paper could probably tell you. So we are going to be talking about aspects that just are not covered in the bylaws, and we feel like it's necessary to at least just talk about it and do so freely. So one of them is creating a good working environment. So before we get into like how to improve one or how to create one, we'll talk about like, well, why is it important in the first place? So at the core of every club is the board. So whether it's appointed or executive or some kind of combination of both. So it's important that your board is working, because if not, then that's going to affect your membership in some kind of way. So in a way, you need to make sure that it is working in some capacity. If there is any tension or bitter feelings, this can quickly affect the boards, which will go and seek into the membership, which is not what we want, right? No one wants a polarizing environment. So being proactive in this situation will help you in the long run. So how do I improve my board dynamic? For starters, we put down the term casual professionalism to get this point through. But basically what we're saying is to recognize that Circle K is not only work focused. No one on the club level is being paid to do this, right? Well, if you guys are, then I'm not. So let me in on that. But we're all doing this for the love of service, leadership, and fellowship. So you as a president, as a VP, you will be delegating tasks a lot. So make sure that you aren't overworking people and you're not putting too much pressure on them. People should be enjoying their term. And at the end of the day, you want people to come back to this term and come back to this club. So although you do want to get things done, try to make it light and enjoyable for the person, because you don't want them to leave their term with a bitter resentment. So next, we wanted to bring up a frequent quote from Circle K members. A lot of people tend to come for the service, but stay for the people. This is something to keep in mind when thinking of how to develop your board. As a president or VP, it is your job to envision what you want your board to be and take the steps necessary to achieve that goal. So that's why we really emphasize bonding with your board members. Once you create a personal connection with someone, they are more likely to ask for help and voice their concerns if they have any. Lastly, when people are connected to their board members, they have a reason to come back every year. Going back to the quote, whether or not people feel welcome or comfortable on their board, we need to make sure that they at least feel comfortable to come back and voice their concerns during their term. So the very least that we can do as presidents, as VPs, is just be very aware of this and be proactive in the situation. And this will help in preventing fallouts and maintain the liveliness of members. And the last bullet point is something that I wanted to add because it's very subtle, but it's very, very effective. So watch out for your wording. As a leader, people look up to you and base their reactions and thoughts on what you do and say. And because of that, it's crucial to keep this in mind, to not focus on the negativity. So an example that we're using to kind of get this point through is like the difference between like rant sessions versus sappy sessions. That's the only word that can come to mind, so please bear with us. So a lot of you guys are on board, and you are probably all too familiar with the daily frustrations that might come across with natural communication and working. That's human. Like, there's no way to go about that. So by all means, like, do have a person in a group like your board that you can vent to if you need to get something off your chest. But what's important is that you don't let that be the main focus. Speaking from prior experience of both Ethan and I, we felt like focusing on negative things will drain the energy of people. All they do is focus on what's going wrong, what did I not do right, and just where the club is. So while it's important to talk about your feelings, also follow it up with positive notes. So this is something that I did with one of my executive boards, because I'm a lieutenant governor, a few weeks back, and I felt like it really helped them. So I want to bring this up as well. End the note with words of affirmation. What are we doing right? What's going right? How are you guys validating your feelings and as your position? A lot of us don't feel validated in our position, and we don't feel like we're doing enough. And no one wants to say it because no one wants to feel ashamed like that, but you do need to give validation somehow. So being sappy, by all means, be vulnerable, let each other know that how appreciated you guys are of one another. So yeah, be sappy. And lastly, if all you do is put out negative images of your position, because we all know president and VP can be stressful, but if you emphasize that too much, how will you ever find a successor? Um, right? Like that's an unspoken rule. You always have to try to look out for your successor. Doing that is impossible if all you present your position is as stressful and unlikable. So please watch out your wording because this will help you in the long run.
All right, so going into one of the ways to create a good working environment, one of these things might be a board retreat or board bonding, depending on how you want to word it. If you are a president or a vice president, maybe you have this in your club already. If you don't, maybe you want to take a look at it. So there are some benefits to this. Actually, there's a lot of benefits to this. I'll just cover a few of them. So one of them is that it does set the tone for the year. You can go to your club and you can actually, well, more so your board, and then you can kind of drive home the main focus that you wanted to focus on this year. So if you wanted to take, I don't know, a more, I guess, serious approach to the club, you can pitch it to your board. If you wanted to focus on a certain issue, say your service like has been lacking for the past couple of years, and you're like, man, I really want to bring back all the service opportunities that we used to have. Those kinds of things, you can kind of pitch it there and then see what you can do from there. Also, with this, you are able to kind of include serious topics. So you can include like professional development things like public speaking, things like public speaking, but also don't forget to talk about like bonding and stuff. You want to be able to get your board to function and also to work together and also be like a working environment as well. And then kind of adding to this, there's a rhetorical question, like if the board can't function, how do you expect the club to function? If members see how your board functions, Vanessa kind of mentioned it before on the club is what you perceive it and what you kind of give out. If your board doesn't really function and has a lot of drama or doesn't really work well together, the club will see that it doesn't really work well, and maybe members will be more inclined to either leave or not really come back to the club in the following years. If you see that it's working well and that your board actually really likes each other and they're like, oh wow, like these people are really cool and chill, then they'll be more inclined to be returning and then also bringing that inclusive environment with it. So just keep those in mind for a board retreat.
Yeah, and just to add on real quickly, so I know not every single club has a board retreat already to base that off of. By all means, if you need help, always feel free to talk to alumni, advisors. Obviously, those people have seen those positions through the years, so they can offer advice. Like maybe you might want to host a public speaking workshop. They might have connections. They themselves might host that workshop for you. Yeah, they're always a great resource. And if you ever need a template, you can reach out to Ethan and I. We both hosted board retreats ourselves, so we do have a template. You can make adjustments if you need.
Do you want to get into icebreakers and stuff?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, but for the icebreakers, so that's something that you could also ask for a template for. Icebreakers, even though they are online, they're still pretty effective, and the next slide will show a little example. But don't be afraid to make them personal, because during this time, it is a good time to be vulnerable and let each other know how you guys are feeling about the year, about how you guys are feeling about yourselves as leaders. So by all means, please be vulnerable. We don't judge. And yeah, I mean, my best experiences being on board were when we let our guard down and just talked about who we are, and we all related on a human level, because there is a certain anxiety that comes with being on board, because president and VP, that's a really huge responsibility, and it's not an easy task. So do allow yourself to be vulnerable to them, because if they see you put your guard down, they'll also put their guard down too, and that'll just allow for more connections to be had. Yeah, so this was the UNLV online retreat, I think in July, or no, not July, in June. So I was invited as a guest because I'm not on board anymore, but I couldn't not be there. So the guy on the very left with that carrot or whatever. That's my grand successor. So I'm very proud of him. But yeah, this was like at 3 a.m. after we were crying for no reason. But yeah, these are like the things that people remember and why people want to come back and feel a part of the board. So don't abandon the idea of having a board retreat.
If anybody needs templates for board retreat, I know Vanessa mentioned talking to alumni. Also talk to your like counterparts and stuff if you want one from like what we did online, since we did ours over Zoom because of quarantine. Also feel free to reach out. But yeah. All right, so now we'll get into representing the club. So there's a couple different ways to kind of represent your club, and as a vice president or a president, you are one of the faces of the club, whether you like it or not. You may also have a public relations chair or maybe like a Kiwanis family chair that does representation kind of on behalf of the club. But even still, you being on the executive board or even just being on board are a face of the club. So one of the things is that we'll get into is division and district representation. So at a district level or even a division level, if you have a division council meeting or any kind of meeting where you can promote events or give updates about your club, always feel free to do so. Always make sure to just kind of like give those kinds of updates. If you have events and fundraisers or even just like other service things, also just try and like reach out, show support, and also try and gain support for those events. And then another thing is if you're at a Kiwanis family representation, so things like local key clubs, since we are part of the Kiwanis family, obviously key club is the step lower in high school, and those high schools might be attending one of the colleges, either maybe the one that you're at already or maybe another college with a Circle K. And you kind of want to give that impression that you like this club. I mean, at least like thoroughly enjoy it and everything, because if they see that you enjoy it, and it's like, oh, wow, like this person gave like, I don't know, a good workshop or they were just like a cool person and I really want to join this club. And then they see you in a couple years. That's always a cool feeling. Like when people are just like, I saw you at this workshop like 2 years ago. And they're just like, oh yeah, like now I'm joining the club. It's always a nice feeling to get. Another thing is to also get to know your sponsoring Kiwanis club. Since they are, your sponsor, I would show support for them as well. Kind of attend either their meetings. You can also give updates at their meetings. Maybe they have a section for like SLPs. If you go there, you can also gain support from them. Maybe they have grants or just like other things that you can do. Maybe you can have one of them host a workshop for your club. Maybe you can gain some money from like a service event or invite them to a large scale fundraiser, kind of get them to come and show support. Another thing is school representation. So as a campus organization, you do represent your school. So you do have the options to promote your events to your school. If you're having, I don't know, some large scale fundraising or even just other service opportunities, maybe you want to invite it to like the rest of your school. Make sure to find those channels. Maybe there's an involvement center. Maybe there's a website, something along those lines. Maybe even just simple as like posting a like a poster on a bulletin board, those kinds of things. Other things, if you want to promote your club and kind of get people to join, involvement fairs, if you have a day of where all the clubs on school kind of get together and pitch their club to like freshmen or other students on campus, that's always a good way. And just other club advertisement. So I kind of like mentioned a few of them, but there may be more than things that I mentioned. And then also with your school, do try and gain resources from them. Your school may have like free money that you can apply for and kind of get grants for. So if you do have your large scale service events, or if you do have even just like smaller events, maybe there's a grant that your school's offering that's like some sort of money that can be put towards your event, and then it also kind of alleviates costs, and also it gets like your guys' name and your club's name just kind of out there, and more people will recognize you and then be like, hey, I like this club, maybe we should do a joint event with them, maybe I should join them, those kinds of things.
All right. Okay. So, oh wait, this is you, sorry.
Oh no, that's good. All right, so now we get into another activity. We don't have the chat feature, so I was gonna copy and paste this in, but if anybody wants to take a picture of this real quick, we're going to give you guys a scenario, and then basically it's the same breakout rooms, and you would just kind of talk with your people that you were talking to before and kind of see what they would do to respond to the situation. So I'll read it out too, and it's about conflict resolution and kind of like understanding what you may do. So the scenario is that you see the start of a potential clique forming in the club, and you know the members of the clique very well. Although not explicitly part of the clique, you do feel like you do enjoy, or you find them enjoyable to be around. However, they start to act in a way which excludes other members of the club, and a group of other general members come to you and let you know their concerns about the clique and the feelings of exclusiveness giving off. So talk to group members and kind of understand and kind of see like what you would do in the situation and what maybe they would do, kind of facilitate your own thoughts as well. And I will set those up right now. Okay. You guys should be invited to join back again.
Ready. Okay. Are you able to send messages to everyone in the breakout rooms?
Yeah.
Okay. I'd say bring them back in about like 3 minutes.
I didn't get sent to a breakout room.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Oh, there's a few unassigned. Let's see. Oh, there's like 5 of them. Okay, if you guys wanted to stay in this room, actually, that would work. And then we'll just introduce ourselves and everything too.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, okay, there's 5.
Yeah, I was in one and then changed from my phone to laptop. Should I just still stay here probably?
Yeah, you can, or I can put you back in the other one actually, I think. Yeah. Do you remember which one it was? Or at least who you were with?
Palomina was in it. I don't know.
All right, let me see.
That helps.
Okay, here's like one of the last ones. Got you.
Thank you.
So I guess in terms of like how I would handle the situation, so we've actually not experienced necessarily like clickiness, but this kind of idea of integrating old and new members. So like my year, our club was like, when I joined, our club was like 5 members because it had like died due to everyone graduating. And then we had like a really tight knit group of maybe 12 people. And then the next year our club expanded to like 48. And so making sure that like new members felt integrated was kind of an issue, just because like obviously those like 10 or 12 that are super familiar with each other will sort of flock together and we have like our inside jokes. So what we did was we would do activities and purposely break up like the ratio of like 1 or 2 old members to like 10 new members. And that seemed to help. So like anytime you can do a fellowship activity, instead of just saying get into groups, if you can break up those groups, I feel like that helps with the issue.
Yeah, definitely. Did anyone else have anything?
I think like making new members feel included, like keeping personal inside jokes at a minimum to not have I think that makes people feel excluded when you have like a lot of inside jokes and you have to explain every single one of them to new members. It just doesn't make them feel like, oh, they've been there to experience all this.
Dana, Giovanni, did you guys have anything?
Oh, yeah. I was just about to mention that since, like, as board, we can kind of see everybody and, like, see how they interact with each other. If we notice that someone's kind of sticking out or if they're having a little trouble trying to get into the conversation, it'd be nice if we could instigate a conversation and kind of introduce them into a group, kind of break up that conversation that's leaving them out, and just be like, oh, hey guys, this is so and so, they're new here, maybe you guys could like talk about blah blah blah, or they're also interested in blah blah, and like kind of help them see what where their interests lie and find a common footing there. Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of at least in the past, this has like kind of happened. One of the things is since um since I know this person very well, it was easy to like kind of go to them and be like, hey, I think like this kind of group is being a bit more exclusive now, and then trying to like let them know we don't want it to, I don't know, trying to be more direct, like being straightforward with it and being like, hey, I don't like, or not, but like, trying to figure out how to word this. Oh my god, activity or respond to it, but mainly just like going to them and letting them know that it's feeling a bit more exclusive. And there are ways to make it more inclusive. Some people may actually just be accidentally making it exclusive, whether it be, I don't know, forming like their own kind of group on like one side of the room, or just like, oh, okay, that's like one of the examples I could think of off the top of my head. But if they form like a group on the side of the room, and then other people are like, well, I don't want to go to the side of the room because, I don't know, those people are always there. Oh, thanks, Michelle. Actually, I'm closing the rooms right now. There it should be. But yeah, anyway, solid conversation. Let me wait for everybody to join back.
My breakout room and I became a clique.
Oh, what the heck, Brandon?
UCI click?
No more clicks in UCI.
All of UCI is one. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean,
JK. No, I was just joking.
Wrong.
I'm Ethan.
No,
Coming
I was
from
just
them.
kidding.
How would you like if you say UNLV is a click?
ooh,
Right. Anyway, this should be about everybody.
We're calling it the clicks.
All right. So next slide, please. So yeah, it was a really great pleasure hearing you guys and seeing how you would approach these situations. Unfortunately, this is a reality for a lot of us, and if it hasn't already happened, it's probably going to happen to some extent. So we do want to cover it to just kind of at least like you guys feel comfortable with how to approach these situations. So fear not, it doesn't have to be as intimidating or complicated as people make it seem, but we're going to discuss a little bit about it. At the end of the day, just know that your club's interests will always come before self-interest. So your course of action must be done where it has a goal of what's doing best for the club or the general membership. So we're gonna be dividing like the course of action based on two things. So like the severity of the situation. So if it's like petty drama, so like friendship fallout or like the clicky stuff that we just talked about, decide who will be looking into the situation, like the president, the VP, all of e-board. Pick someone who is really unbiased to the situation because this will help you get the best solution ultimately. After that, seek out both sides of the story. Do not initiate confrontation at any point, and avoid bringing the subject in front of other people that are not involved. You don't want to gather like a big crowd by any means. You want to deal with this as quickly and as privately as possible. But yeah, make sure that there's always a follow-up to the resolution. So if someone needs to apologize to someone else, make sure that that is known so there isn't any like further miscommunication regarding that situation. If it happens to escalate, please don't feel afraid to like reach out to your advisor. By all means, they are trained and they are very much willing to help you guys in any kind of situation. So it might be embarrassing because petty drama can escalate sometimes, but don't be ashamed to ask your advisors for help. For like serious allegations, like if someone's like taking money from like a fundraiser or something like that, immediately seek out your advisor. They know what to do. And generally speaking, your bylaws should probably have an excerpt about the only person that can really remove membership is an advisor. So you yourself are not a judge, you're not an investigator, and you're especially not an instigator. So you're just someone that's passing on the knowledge to the person that can do something about the situation. So yeah, don't reach out to your advisors because they will definitely know how to help you. Yeah, at the end of the day, no matter the severity of the situation, the club has no bias. So we're not a court, you are not a judge. So just keep the focus on the tenets because that's the whole point. We're not some reality TV show. Like, we're not here to watch a fight go down, all right? I love reality, but that's not happening right now. Alrighty, so that's conflict resolution.
Alrighty, so once again, here are the takeaways. But to be honest, we actually forgot the very last important duty of the president, or actually any position on board, and that is to enjoy your turn. So yeah, that's the end of our workshop. If anybody has any questions, comments, concerns, queries, conundrums, shenanigans.
Who's having a good time? Let us know that too. But yeah, if you have any questions, you could raise your hand. We'll answer that in a second. But also that QR code, someone suggested if we could like share our socials, and that's what it is for. It's a Google Doc, so you can enter your name and your Instagram if you want. Follow each other, spread the love, what have you. But yeah, if anyone has any questions, you can try to answer them right now with the last few remaining minutes that we have. But if not, you can always email us as well.